Good morning, class. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. How's your weekend?
Well,
Short.
Yes.
I only got 2 hours of sleep last night because I was up until 3 a.m. watching the Polar
Oh
Express.
my God, it's a great movie, but you should make sure you get some sleep.
No.
Okay, well, work on it. You definitely want some sleep. It's almost finals. You know, you gotta be prepared. Yeah?
Alright.
Okay. Work on that. But it's a great movie, I must say. So today we're going to talk about the Kansas-Nebraska Act. Does anyone know what that is?
Dorothy lived in Kansas.
Rebecca's from Nebraska.
Yes, these are all true, but that's not really where we're going with this. Today we're going to talk about the Kansas-Nebraska Act that was actually around in 1854, and it was a big part of American history. So before we start that, we're going to do a do now. So what I want everyone to do is to notice like some of the changes that are going to happen in this interactive map that I have here. And then we're just going to talk about what changes you see. The green states are going to be your free states, and the pink states are going to be the slave states. There'll also be another color that shows up, and those are going to be the states that you are decided by popular sovereignty, okay? Okay, everyone ready? All right. So you can see, like, as time goes on, the years are at the bottom. Sarah, are you okay there?
No, I only got 2 hours of sleep last night because I was up till 3 a.m. watching the Polar Express.
I know, it's okay. Hang in there, okay? We'll make it through.
No.
I promise you will. We're going to do an activity at the end, okay?
Okay.
So what did we notice? Did we notice anything?
That there are 4 more free states than slave states.
Wow, that's a great observation.
I counted.
Wow, good job. Anything else anyone wants to add?
No.
No? Okay. So we're just going to get right to it. We're just going to have some basic information about the Kansas-Nebraska Act, but it's going to start with talking about the Missouri Compromise. So that occurred in 1820. So basically it was an amendment that was passed that drew a imaginary line, this is an actual line, right here, that established the boundary between the free and the slave states, and everyone was unhappy at this point. The Southerners were not happy because Congress is making laws, and the Northerners weren't happy because slavery was expanding. So they tried to just, keep the peace a little bit. At least Missouri in 1819 wanted to be a slave state, but that would totally affect the balance. So they put together this two-part compromise in which Maine up here became a free state and Missouri became a slave state. So this is eventually the Kansas-Nebraska Act. This is Stephen Douglas. He's an Illinois senator, and he proposed this bill for Nebraska to be a state. However, it failed. So when it failed, he decided we were going to just add popular sovereignty. So does anyone know what that is?
Popular sovereignty.
Well, it's actually the decision where they can decide whether they want to be a free or slave state. And everyone was kind of unsure about this just because they didn't really know a lot about it. But eventually Franklin Pierce signed this into law on May 30th, 1854. Everyone good? Any questions so far?
Never mind.
Go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You can ask it, and there's no such thing as a stupid question.
Are you sure? Okay, well, it wasn't really a question, it's more of a comment.
Go ahead.
That guy looks like my old physics teacher.
Aww. Yeah, I mean, Stephen Douglas. He was very interesting. Yeah. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
Maybe my physics teacher was Stephen Douglas.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. But I understand. Maybe they're relatives.
Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe.
So the response to this act, basically it was a very violent response. In 1855 there was a huge, like, violent outbreak called Bleeding Kansas. And, pro-slavery and anti-slavery forces both came to Kansas. The anti-slavery slavery people were coming to Kansas just so that they could vote in the elections to make it a slave state. The Northerners were called Free Soilers, and the Southerners were called Border Ruffians. So a lot of artwork depicted this time period, and it was a crazy time period. Eventually, it was the foreshadowing of. What do you think the foreshadowing of?
The Mason-Dixon line.
Okay, what else?
The Civil War.
Yes, good job, Sarah. Okay, so there were some attacks also with Bleeding Kansas. This is there's a pro-slavery attack on Lawrence, and John Brown, as is pictured here, wanted to seek revenge. Yes, Sarah?
Lawrence looks like my Aunt Betsy.
This is actually John Brown.
John Brown looks like my Aunt Betsy.
Okay. So in this attack, more than 200 people were killed. So President Pierce eventually had to send in troops to control all the havoc that was going on. It was pretty crazy. So ultimately, this did a lot to the country. So the Whig Party was destroyed, and the Northern Whigs joined the anti-slavery Democrats and the Know-Nothings, which eventually formed the Republican Party in 1854, which also brought a very famous person back into politics.
Abe Lincoln.
Abe Lincoln. We all love Abe.
Yay for him!
We love Abe Lincoln in this room, I'm sure. But eventually brought him back into politics, and as we know, he was a great part of the Civil War. Anyone know any things he did in the Civil War? Any addresses he gave?
He had a son
Okay,
and a dog,
okay.
and he gave the Gettysburg
He
Address.
did, that's what we were talking about. We're actually going to be talking about that later in the week. So, basically today what we're going to do, just to get a further in depth of what these two thought. So who was Abe Lincoln again? We just discussed like 2 seconds ago.
The president.
Not at the time, but he came back into politics when this was addressed. And Stephen Douglas, who was he?
The other president.
No. Who was he? We just talked about him.
Senator of Illinois.
Yes, and what did he do? Any
He
ideas? What?
signed the Missouri Compromise.
No. Close. What did he write?
Can I just make a comment? Was it Barack Obama, the senator of Illinois?
This is not really.
I just don't understand what's going on in Illinois.
I guess all happens once you're a senator of Illinois.
All right.
But basically, he was actually the one that wrote Kansas-Nebraska Act. So what we have here are 2 excerpts of both of their speeches, and I'm going to have both of you read a different one. So Rachel, you're going to read Stephen Douglas's, and Sarah, you're going to read Abraham Lincoln's.
Yeah, I'm Abe.
So Abe Lincoln's was basically a response to Stephen Douglas's. So you're just gonna quickly skim. You don't have to fully read. Just give me the speeches, and then we will discuss what everything meant. So take your time with that.
I'm ready.
Okay, 1 second.
Sweet. Rachel's ready.
Awesome.
What Douglas believed.
What was a Lincoln? Did you know there's a Lincoln, Nebraska?
Okay, so what we have here, 2 questions we're just going to really discuss, and we're going to go a little back and forth. So, Douglas, what did Douglas believe?
Douglas. He
Yes.
believed that people should be allowed to decide the questions of their domestic institutions for themselves instead of an arbitrary geographical line to define that.
Okay, so what do you think about that?
I think Douglas wanted people to decide for themselves instead of having the government decide if it should be a free or slave state.
Okay, so do we see any of like relations and connections to what the world is today with that? I mean, do people have the right to do that?
They have the right to vote.
Okay. So do you think this would work if, say now, if we had a situation in which they could decide between being two different things, do you think that would work out now? Yeah, why do you think that?
Because you have the right to be an individual.
Okay. So what did Lincoln think in response to what Douglas thought?
That a man has no right to govern another man.
Okay, and why do we think that? What does this go back to that we talked about last a few months ago?
Slavery.
Okay, but what else? He drew on something. What did he draw on? He talked about all men being equal. What does that draw on?
Declaration of Independence.
Okay, awesome. Good job. So basically in the Bill of Rights and in the Constitution, everyone's talking about how we're all supposed to be equal, but yet here's Douglas thinking that
We should have slaves.
well, ultimately he wants everyone to have their own like opinion of whether to do. So what else does Lincoln think?
That it is wrong letting slavery into Kansas and Nebraska and allowing it to spread to every other part of the world.
Awesome. So eventually we'll read some more speeches and articles later this week in which we really discuss what Lincoln thought and how he was such a big part in the coming Civil War. Does anyone have any other questions, comments, concerns?
So was Douglas okay with slavery?
Basically, he was more okay with it than Lincoln, but
If I knew this Douglas guy, I would knock him out. I really hope my physics teacher wasn't Stephen Douglas.
I hope so too. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Think him good.
Okay, so those are the references. I just want to quickly look back at this thing, and we're going to just think about what we know now about everything that happened and see if this was and how this really shaped it.
After class, can we talk about my dog?
Sure.
I have a lot to tell you.
Okay, of course. Let's just look at this.
His name is Sammy.
Okay, we'll talk about it after class, okay?
Yeah. Oh my god, this map is slower than my bearded Aunt Barbara. I don't even have an Aunt Barbara. That's how slow it is.
All right, Sarah, we're gonna quiet down, right?
Okay.
Okay.
That's all.
Yep. So, what do we think now that we've learned a little bit about what all this was?
That Stephen Douglas was an ass.
All right. Well, that's a feeling you may have, but we're gonna talk more specifically about the map itself and like the whole act.
That there were still almost just as many
That a civil war was going to
slave
happen.
states as free states. So a civil war is going to happen.
Exactly. And eventually, we did get to the Civil War, which we will talk about at a later time later this week. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, anything else before?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Class dismissed.
Yes.
Yay! Now let's talk about my dog.
Okay, let's talk about your dog.
Okay, well he's